find for the certitudes. The facts of 42nd Street precede our verification of them in thought or law. We live myth before we declare it to be myth, myth which might only appear in reflection or translated into a story. The existential engagement is already a certitude, action for itself and in itself, the certitude of immediacy. My urge to fly sunward above it all with Icarus, my unknown union with my mother, like Oedipus, my unapproachable distancing, intactness, like Artemis, my aggressive attack on dirt and bestial monsters, like Hercules, the unworried smile and the charming allure I bring to every encounter, like Aphrodite. Before verum or truth and all arguments about truth, myths are the ongoing fantasies concurrent with our behaviors, myths enacted in the ceremonies of habitual performance and daily patterns of expression and perception, embodied in human behavior. We need to look again at Oedipus. Myth is this certainty or certitude that goes on unthinkingly in each of our actions. And as Isaiah Berlin says when he's talking about Vico, it is myth that gives us the sense of reality. So reality is not the absence of myth or the contrary of myth. It is our immersion in myth is reality. So early in the play, Oedipus the king says, "Well, I know you are all sick, and in your sickness none among you as sick as I. Your pain comes to none other than myself." Oedipus Tyrannus, the king, has taken on the city and its people as himself. He calls them his children. He identifies his condition with theirs. He is the city and its people. We are dealing, however, with something beyond the symbolic significance of kingship, and rather with the interpenetration of sickness among the polis, the city, the people, and the individual. All are sick together, individuals, community, and government. Private and public cannot be separated. The gods do not affect individuals and families alone or only human beings. They affect the land, the crops, and the herds, and the institutions of state. A city, too, can be pathologized by mythical factors, exactly what Jung said in Wotan in 1936, looking at Germany. The gods live in the polis. The king, whether in Thebes or in Texas, how does a city act when it is sick? What moves do its rulers make? What notions of remedy arise from a sick city? And the play Oedipus gives us answers. First, the sick city calls upon the leader to find remedy, equating the king with the city. Oedipus Tyrannos. The government is responsible. The people are children. Second, the leader calls on Apollo to reveal the cause and the cure. Oedipus says, "I sent away unto Apollo's halls to find what I might do or say to save the state." The government turns to Apollonic consciousness, Apollonic means of diagnosis and correction, whether Thebes or Texas. And the government speaks in God's name. Quote from the play, "God proclaimed now to me, for me and God and for our land." Third, the city purges. Oedipus says, quote, "I will disperse this filth." Oedipus speaks of purification, expulsion, punishment. He curses those who would not obey him. Quote, "I forbid that man, whoever he may be, my land, and I forbid any to welcome him, or cry him greeting, or make him a sharer in sacrifice or offering to the gods, or give him water for his hands to wash. I command all to drive him from their homes, since he is our pollution. Fourth, the sick city makes edicts. Oedipus says, I forbid, I command, I invoke this curse. In these early passages of the play, he speaks as the voice of the city. Oedipus, the king, is the state, an utterly public figure. These four solutions, and let me repeat them in brief, a single answer to a complex question. The appeal to Apollo, the language of pollution and expulsion, and apodictic declarations in God's name. These supposed solutions are actually manifestations of the city's sickness. They are diagnostic signs. The solutions imagined by a patient for his illness belong to the image of his illness. That is why therapists listen closely to what the patient wants at the beginning of therapy. How the patient imagines remedy and what measures he is already pursuing show how the patient is constellated by his condition. The solutions to the problem of Thebes present the problem of Thebes. The simplistic Apollonic solutions to America's disease are part of the disease itself. The classically ritual solution could only be sacrifice of the king. I have turned to one basic, and sacrifice of the king means more than the capacity to admit a mistake, which even that's missing. I have turned to one basic tragic tale, Sophocles' Oedipus the Tyrant, to expose the myth we are now struggling in. There are others, such as the story the exclusionist followers of Jesus are absorbed by, the story of Armageddon, the final chapter of the Christian Bible, which envisions the final chapter of the planet's life. This archetypal tale is a myth of horror and terror, of flames and plagues, and an avenging Christ's white robe dripping with the blood of his enemies. A myth, too, that gives certitude, and belief in it urges action. Whereas it might rather be a self-fulfilling prophecy or an antiodromia or a revelation of the self-destruction of the Christian Bible at the end of an aeon. We can see. What we can and must learn from Joseph Campbell is that myth is all about us, on every street corner. Myth is reality, and recognition of this certitude, analysis of the myths at work among us, may keep us from falling prey to blind belief and the disasters of delusion. For we are in a collective madness. All of us, even here in this grand Hyatt. Thank you.